community, our favorite mechanic from New York, has asked a question. It's in the comments. I'm asking on his behalf because he cannot take the horn. But he was asking specifically about time distortion, accumulation, and consolidation, and if you could talk about what separates or differentiates the time distortion from accumulation and or consolidation. That's the charter question from my boy Pippi Banks.
Okay. Time distortion is basically what everybody else is going to call chop or noise. And the way you bring resolution to that conflict of watching price action where all the candles are joining the same little range, you go up in time frame. I did that this morning. It showed that we were inside of a 5-minute sell side and bounce, buy side efficiency. I think it was a suspension block. I can't recall now off the top of my head, but we were in part of that. And once we had that wick that we were being questioned about by our dentist compadre, that became a critical delineation between knowing where the market may go to. We wanted to see it go heavy. Once it got down below the midpoint of that wick, then that time distortion or consolidation, or through the lens of a retail trader, it's chop. It's trash market. It is until you get more intel. The intel was that wick, and then waiting for price to trade down below it. Then once that happens, you heard me as I did in the live stream, it needs to start moving lower. It needs to start doing it now. So knowing when these consolidations are occurring until it gives you and tips its hand, basically, it is just basically a pause before the next run. We look inside there for details to tell us what it may do. Obviously, we had a heavy-handed bias that we wanted to see lower prices, the gap, trying to get down into reaching lower. So with that premise, it kind of like doesn't just leave us in the limbo of retail looking at chop. We look at it as it's time distortion. We clarify it by going to the upper time frame. So 5 minutes tells us we were part of a fair value gap that would be justifying continued lower prices. Then that wick formed. I took your attention to that wick. I said, okay, now it starts going below the consequent encroachment that we want to see it start to get heavy here. In other words, we want to see it start moving lower, show willingness to want to move lower. So we're not just in sideways consolidation. We're in time distortion with a bias. We want to look for evidence that's going to move a certain direction outside of it. So we're not breakout traders, okay? A breakout trader would have expected it to go lower than the previous low, and then they would be a part of that move. Okay, so we're not breakout traders. We're anticipating, we're not reacting, we're anticipating the movement of price action. So the characteristic that we would all agree that we're inside of a narrow consolidation, retail perspective, institutional perspective, our community, smart money concepts, we all would agree that prior to that wick forming, it's in a small little narrow consolidation. The advantage was we went up one time frame to 5 minute. It was part of a sell side and bounce buy side efficiency, continuation likely, gap still unfilled, look for lower prices. That wick formed, and that was the catalyst for us to be a part of the expectation of moving lower. We had now something to commit to the price structure versus just simply, well, we don't know what it's going to do. It needs to start showing a willingness to go lower. That's the distinction between just looking at consolidations versus time distortion. Time distortion is this, we're waiting for more information. We're not looking at it as it's chop, that's untradeable. We're actively waiting for something to give us an indication that our predetermined bias is going to be delivered to. So I'm not sure if that's accomplished the response he was aiming for, but that's the best I got for what we're being asked.